Imagine the last ordinary morning. Imagine the smell of breakfast being prepared in small wooden homes. Imagine children walking to school, merchants opening their shops, and soldiers reporting for duty. A blinding flash of pure white light, brighter than 10,000 suns, tore across the sky above the city center. The fireball, an expanding sphere of superheated plasma, instantly vaporizing everything within a half-mile radius. Rising above it all, climbing into the still morning sky with terrible, majestic power, the mushroom cloud of Hiroshima. In less than 1 second, an entire city had been fundamentally destroyed. By the summer of 1945, Nazi Germany had already surrendered. But in the Pacific, the conflict raged on with extraordinary ferocity. The plan called for the deployment of thousands of kamikaze aircraft, suicide boats, and even civilians armed with bamboo spears. The Battle of Okinawa alone resulted in more than 12,000 American deaths and potentially over 100,000 Japanese military deaths. President Harry S. Truman had assumed the presidency only months earlier, following the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt on April 12, 1945. It was called the Manhattan Project. Scientists, engineers, military personnel, and workers labored at sites and at a remote, windswept mesa in New Mexico called Los Alamos. The scientific director of Los Alamos was J. Robert Oppenheimer, a brilliant and complex theoretical physicist. On July 16, 1945, at a remote desert site in New Mexico called Trinity, the world entered a new age. Oppenheimer later recalled that a phrase from the ancient Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, came into his mind. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." A special committee, known as the Interim Committee, had been assembled to advise President Truman on the use of atomic weapons. Ultimately, the decision reached was to use the atomic bombs against Japanese cities without prior warning. Hiroshima rose to the top of the list. It was the headquarters of the Second Army and a major military embarkation port. The uranium bomb, Little Boy, was a gun-type device, approximately 10 feet long, 28 inches in diameter. The USS Indianapolis departed San Francisco on July 16th, the same day as the Trinity test, and arrived at Tinian Island on July 26th. The commander of the 509th Composite Group was Colonel Paul W. Tibbets, Jr., one of the most experienced B-29 pilots in the Air Force. Tibbets chose to name it after his mother, Enola Gay Tibbets. He had the name painted on the nose of the aircraft on the evening of August 5, 1945. The crew of the Enola Gay numbered 12 men. Navy Captain William Parsons, a weapons specialist who would arm the bomb in flight. At a midnight briefing, mission crews gathered in a low building on the island, while officers reviewed the plan one final time. At 2:45 in the morning on August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay began to roll down Northfield's runway Able at Tinian Island. The aircraft was extraordinarily heavy. Loaded with fuel, the bomb, and crew, it weighed approximately 65 tons. Captain Parsons, working in the cramped bomb bay of the Enola Gay, while the aircraft climbed to altitude, carefully inserted the explosive charge components into the bomb. Some dozed. Others stared out at the ocean below and the stars above. Co-pilot Robert Lewis kept a personal journal during the flight. At around 7 in the morning local time, weather reconnaissance aircraft reported back to the Enola Gay. The report on Hiroshima, clear skies. Schoolgirls were mobilizing for civil defense labor. Soldiers were reporting for duty at military headquarters. At 8:09 in the morning, the Enola Gay reached its initial point and began its bombing run toward Hiroshima. The city was visible below. At 8:15 and 17 seconds, the Enola Gay reached its release point. Farabee pressed the release trigger. Little Boy dropped away from the aircraft. Tibbets immediately executed a sharp diving turn, a specific evasive maneuver the crews had trained intensively to perform. People looked up, paused for a moment, and continued their mornings. Then the light came. Within a radius of roughly a half mile from the hypocenter, the destruction was essentially total and instantaneous. The shock wave arrived. A wall of compressed air traveling faster than the speed of sound ripped outward from the hypocenter. In the hours that followed, Hiroshima experienced a firestorm, a self-sustaining massive conflagration fed by the ruins of the city itself. Aboard the Enola Gay, The crew watched through dark goggles. Co-pilot Robert Lewis wrote in his journal words that have been quoted ever since. Communications out of Hiroshima ceased almost immediately. The Japanese Army's communications center in Tokyo noticed the interruption shortly after 8:15. Flying toward Hiroshima, he saw the enormous smoke cloud from more than 100 miles away. As he approached the city, he looked down and saw a landscape of fire and ruin. Those who had survived emerged into a world that had been erased. The city they walked out into was unrecognizable. Survivors began to walk. Some moved toward the rivers, seeking water for their terrible thirst and burns. The burns, the wounds, the contamination of the air and water. All of it was unprecedented in scale and nature. Many people who had appeared to survive the initial blast began to suffer from mysterious and terrifying symptoms. Nausea, vomiting, hair loss. President Truman made a public announcement from the ship, informing the American people and the world that the United States had dropped a bomb of a new type on Hiroshima. On August 8, 1945, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan. Soviet forces immediately launched a massive invasion of Japanese-held Manchuria. On August 9, 1945, a second atomic bomb was dropped on Japan. The original primary target that day was Kokura. Sweeney made the decision to proceed to the secondary target, Nagasaki. Fat Man was released at 11:02 in the morning, detonating at an altitude of approximately 1,650 feet above Nagasaki. Emperor Hirohito stated that the continuation of the war was impossible and that Japan must accept the Allied terms. On August 15, Emperor Hirohito delivered a radio address to the Japanese people, the first time most of them had ever heard his voice. The formal surrender documents were signed aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay on September 2, 1945. Tens of thousands of survivors, known in Japan as hibakusha, literally explosion-affected people, continued to suffer from the physical effects of radiation exposure. The city of Hiroshima was rebuilt. A peace memorial park was established at the Hypo Center, incorporating the preserved ruins of the atomic bomb dome. Every year on August 6th, at precisely 8:15 in the morning, the city of Hiroshima observes a moment of silence. Bells ring across the city. It was the moment when human beings demonstrated with shattering finality that they had acquired the ability to destroy themselves on a civilizational scale. Remember the names. Remember the city. Remember the morning. Thank you for watching this documentary. If this story moved you or taught you something new, please share it with someone who deserves to know this history. Leave a comment below about which part of this story affected you most deeply. We read every single response. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time we release a new historical documentary. History has never been more important to understand, and we're here to tell it one story at a time.